Hey everyone, it's actually Jeb Bush, and welcome back to another episode of SoRare Steals. In today's episode, we're going to continue to go down the list of NBA teams and point out key players on each team that I think are a long term steal and have potential to either have a drastic increase of minutes or take on a bigger role for their team as this season goes on. The idea is, while this is not financial advice, it'll give you some players that you can watch and track and either pick up now or later, and hopefully be in an optimal position in regards of building lineups or selling a player after they pump on the marketplace. And just a reminder, if you are new to SoRare, you can go ahead and create an account right here or using the link in the description. By using my affiliated link, it'll allow you to get 20 free common cards, which you can use to enter the common contests. Or if you decide later on that you're enjoying SoRare and you want to purchase some limited cards and join the limited contests or even higher tiers above that, when you purchase 5 cards off the live auction market, you'll get a 6th one airdrop to you for free. But that offer is only available when you use my link in the description. So make sure to click that and you can join along with us. And also, if you can make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscribe button, something really easy you can do that really goes a long way in helping this channel and allows me to continue to create content such as this. So without further ado, let's jump into some SoRare steals, starting with the Boston Celtics. So as you can see, we're here on SoRare data using the scouting tool, and I've pulled up the Boston Celtics. And as I scroll down, the first player that jumps out to me is Derek White. Now, Derek White, if we take a look at his page and look at his recent scores, we can see that he recently has put up some pretty big numbers here. We had a 47 last night, a 39, a 36, even a 28, which isn't terrible. So if we look at his price graph accordingly, we'll see that he's kind of gone up a bit, and he's trending around $24, $25, which is a little high. But that's the whole point of these videos, is to point these players out before they step into this bigger role and put up some big numbers. So while Derek White is a card that you definitely don't want to be purchasing right now because it's already pumped and we're seeing these higher numbers, it's a card that's worth watching because Marcus Smart is going to come back fully healthy. Jaylen Brown just came back. Malcolm Brogdon just came back. And as a result, Derek White's minutes will probably go down, and then his price will also go down. But this bump in price is a great example of what we can expect throughout their season. There will be injuries or load management with various Boston Celtics starters. And Derek White is one of the first guys off the bench. He can put up points. He's good on defense. He's good at passing. There's a lot of ways that he can hit a high fantasy ceiling. So as you can see right here, before Derek White was going for like $3, $4. And like I said, now he's up to like 24, 25. So that's a nice 5x. So I don't think he'll dip all the way back down to 4 or 5, but he's definitely a player that's worth watching and might be worth picking up down the road. Now, a player who wasn't on my original list, but I think is actually a really decent steal right now is Malcolm Brogdon, actually. Malcolm Brogdon's basically the 6th man for the Celtics, and he's someone who has dipped in price because he's recently coming off of an injury. As you can see, he was at about around like $20 to $25. We're seeing a couple that went a little bit above that, but still consistently, it seems like he had some moments where he was above $20. Then he got injured, and we could see that he dipped all the way down to like $6, $5, $10, and now he's up to around 15 again. When you compare that to Derek White, who just had a couple of big games, Derek White is $10 more expensive than Malcolm Brogdon, who is, I would say, at least objectively a better player than Derek White and has a potential at a much higher fantasy ceiling than Derek White as well, especially on a day-to-day basis. And if we look at his scores, we'll see that, he missed some games because of this injury. He hasn't done anything too crazy, but earlier on in the season, he was putting up 30s, high 30s. Maybe he could get to 40s. But yeah, as you can see, he's just missing. He's been missing all these games. So yeah, people aren't super high on him right now between missing games and not putting up any any crazy fantasy numbers. But that's the reason why I think he's a decent target to watch and see if you can snipe him for like $8, below $8, because he's a player that has a lot of talent. And once he's healthy and familiar with the Celtics system, I think he will really thrive and put up some high numbers. So at least for me, Malcolm Brogdon is a very good dart throw. All right, now as we continue to scroll down, I see Grant Williams here. I'm going to be very brief with this. I don't think Grant Williams is necessarily a great deal, but, he is a player that has a potential to, put up a big game where he's just hitting a lot of threes. He can get some blocks. He's pretty good on defense. He's not the worst player to have. I'm not super high on Grant Williams, and I don't own any. I don't really see myself ever putting in Grant Williams in my lineup. I also don't necessarily see him really like mooning because, he is a starter already. So people are already factoring all that in. He's not going to get this massive increase in minutes most likely. But, for $15, he could do worse. Just thought I'd mention him really quick. He has the potential to put up a good score maybe in the future. But now that we got that out of the way, Luke Kornet is the next person on my list. I'm actually weirdly very excited about Luke Kornet, partly just because, the videos of him playing defense and like jumping in the air to block the rim for the three-point shooters is kind of hilarious. And at least all the highlights I see on Twitter, it works. I'm sure people have made it as well, but I like to think that no one's ever scored on Luke Kornet if he jumps to block the rim when someone shoots a three. And that's the world I want to live in. But anyways, Luke Kornet, a player who we've seen a little bit of a price increase. He was one of those players that was sitting down at like $1. He is really on the floor. As you can see, some people are getting him for less than $1 here. And as you can see, at least with the limited cards, he's always been kind of down here at the bottom. And he's boosted a little bit. Like we're seeing him sell for $4 to $6 now because, we've had some injuries. He's gotten some minutes, and he's someone who had a pretty low cap at some point and was putting up a couple good scores, But what I do think is interesting when we switch over to the rares, we can see that, he was going for under $10 as his rare. And now we can see it's kind of trending upward. And it's around like, $20 to $30 now. So especially with a lower end player like a Luke Kornet or someone that's really at, the bottom or the floor of all these cards, sometimes I think it's worth looking and just seeing what that price is on the rare. Like if you feel good about Luke Kornet or a player similar to him, buying a rare for $7, that's a pretty good deal. And, if it doesn't work out, you're really not going to lose a ton. And if it does work out, he could skyrocket to like 50, 60, it can jump a lot faster with the rares, obviously. So I think it's worth looking at the rares in this case because this limited chart is pretty boring. Like I said, we see a little bit of a bump because he did put up some numbers. So, $1 to $7 is not nothing. That's a 7x, but it's a little less exciting as opposed to looking at under 10 to like 30, like we looked at in the rare. But Luke Kornet's another person. Like I said, I think he's great. He's the backup center right now until Robert Williams is healthy, which who knows when that's going to happen. And as a result, he's averaging 11 minutes. If Al Horford gets hurt, Al Horford's old. He'll have load management, I'm sure, throughout the season because they want him to be ready for the playoffs. Luke Kornet is going to get opportunities. So purchasing his card is not the worst decision. There will be opportunities to play him or sell him via a pump, in my opinion. All right. And the last player on the Boston Celtics that I think was worth taking a look at is Peyton Pritchard here. Now, Peyton Pritchard is interesting because right now I believe his price is pretty high. He was one of those players that was sitting at like $1 to $2 as well, except he really pumped. As you can see, $1 to $2 here, less than $1. And he's pumped to, 10, 15, 20. It looks like he's come back down a little bit to 10 because, he hasn't been performing great and he didn't get a lot of minutes his last game or two. But he's another great example of seeing someone like take a massive jump because of injuries. Marcus Smart got hurt. Malcolm Brogdon got hurt. Suddenly Peyton Pritchard is putting up way more minutes, getting way more opportunities to put up a solid score. If we look at his scoring list, you'll see like, he had a 29 here. He had a 22. This 3 was the most recent one, which is why I think we've seen that dip. And he had a 7, a 16, a 5. But this 22 and 28 was pretty good considering he had a very low cap on his card at the time. So if he gets that increase of minutes, suddenly he goes from a worthless card to a pretty valuable one that's worth possibly fitting in some lineups. And on top of that, when you have a low cap, it's a lot easier to squeeze in a Peyton Pritchard below 10 cap as opposed to, a TJ McConnell who's going to be at like 15 cap. So obviously this kind of fits in the same vein as Derek White we looked at, where I definitely would not buy right now, but Malcolm Brogdon just came back. Marcus Smart will be back. We'll see these players get back into their roles and take back those minutes from Peyton Pritchard. As a result, his price and cap should drop. But it's a long season, and Peyton Pritchard has shown that he can step up and put up a decent score in relation to his cap. So if he dips down to $2, $3, I definitely think it's worth scooping up a Peyton Pritchard. And with that being said, I think this concludes the Boston Celtics episode of SoRare Steals. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. If you could please leave a like and make sure you hit that subscribe button, as well as leave a comment about what Boston Celtics you think I missed that might be a huge steal right now. Tune in for the next episode of SoRare Steals, where we look at the Brooklyn Nets. Please clap.